We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday. Professor Thomas Schwartz is with us. We're talking, as you see, politics and national security. Always good to have him on. It's just a nice conversation with you. And you're a very easy man to talk to, and I appreciate you coming on today.
Well, thank you.
The number is 737-7587 if you want to jump in. And let's see, I'm sorry, who did we have on line 5, Mary? I think I missed that, or did I already take 5? No, we'll take Thomas, and then we'll get to Bob. Thomas, good morning.
Yeah, how you doing, Nick? You do an excellent job.
Hey, thanks. What's on your mind, Tom?
Hey, I'm an independent, but you hear Republican Party and you hear Democratic Party. Is it Democrat Party or Democratic Party?
Do you have a preference? I mean,
this actually became an issue a few years back, and many of the Rush Limbaugh and others on the Republican right started using Democrat Party because they thought Democratic gave it a description that was not fair.
That's what I think too, but I like to say I'm independent.
Okay.
But you never hear Republicanic. It's always Republican.
Right.
But you hear Democratic.
Okay. Yeah, you know, it's one of those things on how you take it. People use whichever one they want. Anything else on your mind, Tom?
That's all.
Right.
Thanks a lot.
Listen, I appreciate it. Tom, have you decided who you're going to vote for yet as an independent?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay, see, you're one of those key players then. See, you're kind of sitting there watching and balancing it, and I'm guessing neither candidate is your favorite, but are you looking at it as a vote for the lesser of two evils, or do you think you've got two great candidates and you can't decide? How are you approaching it?
It's probably two. Both of them has some things I like.
Okay, yeah. So people like Bob, Tom rather, I think a lot of people have already made up their mind, obviously. But there's still a little group in the middle there that maybe is swaying. I don't know if it's enough to sway the election one way or the other, but people like him.
It's not a huge number, but it's probably, you can see in the polls that they do bounce back and forth, and you know, the polls usually show something like 40-40, with this sort of 20% going either to third parties or not made up their mind. So there'll be definitely movement over the next couple of months.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far afield away from what we're talking about with national security, but a lot of people like Tom I think he's going to vote, but others aren't. Or
that's the other thing.
They're going to stay home.
Yes.
And I need to remind people that there are other very important issues, be it what happens with health care or what happens to the Supreme Court and all of this, that not only the president will play into, but there's a lot of other political races going on. I suggest, look, if you just don't want to vote for the president and you can't come to a conclusion there, fine, don't.
Yes.
But still show up and vote in all these other races.
Yeah.
I mean, whether or not the Senate stays with Republicans or goes to the Democrats is going to be a huge thing. Same thing in the House of Representatives to some degree, how that continues to balance out, right?
Well, a little bit of Ted Cruz's last comment as he ended his non-endorsement of Trump was say, go vote, vote your conscience, but basically say he may not vote for president, but there's all the Republicans down the line that he was supporting.
Yeah, so there's a huge issue here with that.
Yes.
That comes into play. Let's go to Bob. Bob, what's your thought, my friend?
Oh, I think it's, especially over there, it's over the trafficking, drugs, people, bullies, they'll use it either way, that bombs or attacks, it just sets people off.
You mean you're talking about the terrorism and what sets things off?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, what's behind all of this? ISIS, their ultimate goal, I guess, would be the destruction of the United States, right?
Well, their ultimate goal is the creation of a caliphate. And, I don't think that they're geopolitical thinkers like in Second World War or even during the Cold War. They are thinking of the creation of a caliphate and the spread of Islam, and it is a sort of an almost apocalyptic vision of what the world will look like as you bring in the end times and create the caliphate on earth. And in that sense, that's not a realistic idea, but they're trying to, of course, consolidate their control in the area of Iraq and Syria and have strength there, and they're under a great deal of pressure there by the military attacks from the Iraqi government, from the Syrian government, from the international U.S. coalition. And so they are, in a sense, trying to spread their wings through these lone wolf and other types of inspired attacks.
Let's go to Grady. Hi, Grady. Go ahead.
Hey, Nick. The last balanced budget we had was during the Clinton regime. We borrowed money from China that we're going to be paying for the rest of the world. World's activity to fight two wars that we didn't need to be in the first place. Now, listen to your comments.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think some people are going to be looking at these candidates and wondering, how many, what are the chances of, an escalation in the fight against terrorism becoming some type of war again, something along those lines? How great of a threat where you end up actually declaring, some type of war?
Well, you had an interesting juxtaposition because in his comment he mentioned the last balanced budget was the Clinton years. And the Clinton years in some ways are one of the arguments the Democrats will put forward. It was peace and prosperity, and they had that at the time. And that in that sense, the Bush years and the two wars and the borrowing money was part of the Republican regime, and so that's an argument for the Democrats. On the other hand, Donald Trump basically says the same thing. He doesn't believe in either of the wars too.
He didn't believe in the wars either.
Right, or he says he doesn't now, but he did. He certainly now has taken a very strong position in that line, and he claims he'll eliminate the budget deficit and all the rest of these economic issues too, and he's going to attack economically China. So,
all right, let's go next to Ethel. Hi, Ethel.
Good morning, Nick. How you doing?
Good. What's on your mind, ma'am?
Oh, all I want to say is I think that people are afraid of a change, and I think that the rhetoric that Donald Trump is talking, he's scaring people. People are not using their God-given mind, and I think the one thing that they are afraid of, I'm not saying this because of I am a woman. I think that they're afraid of a change of a woman running the country. And when you think about it, in most households, the biggest decisions are made by a woman. And there is a lot of good things that come out of her decisions. And there is some good in everybody. And I think that people are spending more time trying to find people's faults instead of seeing the good in a person. And I think that before you can come in my house and tell me to clean up my house, you have no right when yours is looking like pig pen. You understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
And it's just a big bottle of confusion. Another thing I want to say, whoever gets in there, it could be God's will. And God's will is going to be God's will because he can do whatever he wants, when he wants, wherever he wants, and the way he wants. And there is nothing we can do about it. So we need to stop arguing and fussing and try to use our God-given mind, concentrate on things that can make the world better instead of confusing people to make it worse.
Well, welcome to politics, and it's a who do you believe and what do you believe, and when she talks about change, I mean certainly, if Hillary Clinton were to become president, obviously the change there would be she's the first female president of the United States. But aside from that change, don't you think there would be a greater sea change from the current administration if Donald Trump were to win?
Yes, that's no question that would be an enormous change from the administration. On the other hand, the caller reminds us that this is a historic first, and Hillary is going to try to play on that. And certainly Bill Clinton's speech last night calling her not change agent, change master or change, I forget the
He just said that
term.
she gets change done better than anyone he's ever been around. I remember that line or something.
He tried to create it, that she is the best change person. And I think that's important because in the United States, we often, after every 8 years, if we have an 8-year president, we usually want a change of some sort. So the idea that she's the third term of Obama would be less popular than seeing her herself as a type of change. And of course, I think it's important for the Clinton campaign to emphasize the fact that she would be the first woman. I think that's still a historic first that would have some appeal, maybe to some moderate women voters who might, on the other hand, be scared by Trump's vision of America and be willing to give Hillary a second look.
You're right. I'm thinking about it, change. And after 8 years, I guess you have to go back to George W. Bush, right? He served only one term?
No, the last one-term president was George H.W.
I'm sorry, George
But
H.
it was
Bush.
the third Republican term in a row.
That's right. That's what it was. And then he was beat by Clinton. But it's like... usually the power of incumbency keeps a president in there for the 8 years potentially.
That's right.
That's certainly a huge advantage along those lines.
Yeah.
But as far as she talking about fear, I wonder about politics of fear, and that gets back to what we're talking about with national security. Yeah, where does that rank on the list of the important issues? Because fear, when people are fearful, they tend to do things in an extreme manner to protect themselves and give up, be it civil liberties or anything else, which is a shame, okay? Because that means the people scaring you are winning, is the way I look at it. But in politics of fear, I mean, how big a deal is that?
Almost every campaign, in some ways, even ones we don't think about in that light, has involved some attempt to scare voters about the other candidate, and the portrayal of the other candidate, either Mitt Romney in 2012 or the way McCain tried to present Obama in 2008, you almost always have some attempt to either scare or affect the presentation of the rival candidate, and so that's not unusual. Trump took it probably to a new level in his speech, in the sense of trying to make fear a central reason to elect a strong man, in the sense, and someone who will clean up. I alone can fix this, the sort of line. So I think there is a stronger component of fear in this election, of immigrants, of crime, of terrorism, than was in the election, say, in 2012 or even 2008.
So do you get any sense as you watch this what the foreign leaders are thinking as they watch this campaign?
I think they are all often baffled by American democratic procedures. I think there's probably some truth to the idea that they could not understand how someone like Donald Trump would be nominated, since in most countries you have to have some record in the political system. You have to have some degree of involvement in the political system to have gotten to such a high post. You have to be in the party for a long period of time and served other positions. So I do think they're a little baffled.
They're more familiar with Hillary Clinton.
Oh, yes.
That doesn't necessarily mean they like her better than Donald Trump, but they're more familiar with her.
Yeah, she doesn't have the uncertainties involved. And foreign leaders often prefer, even if they don't like a particular American political candidate, they prefer someone that's a known to an unknown. Unknowns scare them.
Well, and the truth is, I mean, I think Donald Trump is being something of a wild card, and that's part of his appeal for many people. I think many people maybe who are supporting him aren't entirely sure exactly what he's going to do when he gets into office. And one reason is he hasn't given a lot of specifics on how he plans to do things. But as something of a wild card, even as a Republican, people don't really know, and the foreign leaders don't know. They just hear the rhetoric right now.
Yes.
But is that, now, can that destabilize?
Well, you know, when Donald Trump said that the United States might not defend NATO countries if they were attacked, if they haven't paid up, that's a pretty important point, because NATO has been a central core of American foreign policy for years. So suggesting doubt about, or that Japan and Korea should have nuclear weapons, the sorts of things he's suggesting break from the traditions of American foreign policy quite strongly. And to that extent, they've created a great deal of uncertainty about what the United States would do in the event of a Trump presidency.
And you don't hear a lot about exactly who, you know, he has close relationships over there, except maybe with Vladimir Putin.
Right. Well, Putin is the really rather interesting thing.
That is just bizarre, right?
Putin, he would recalibrate in some ways the U.S. relation with Russia, which has, of course, deteriorated greatly.
Which
over the
could be good,
years.
depending on how that went. You just wonder that level of their relationship. And
I think it could be good. It could be a disaster for other allies and the people who've counted on us to resist Russian aggression. So it is really a very different approach to foreign policy. It's a very transactional one, basically saying allies have to pay. The United States should not be about preaching nation building, should not be about preaching values to other countries, and America first. I mean, that's the central point of the Trump candidacy, is this slogan, America first, which really does break from a sort of tradition of the United States in the sense as the guarantor of the international community.
We'll take a break on that note. We come back, our final segment. More of your calls if you'd like to join in the conversation, 737-7587. We'll be back right after this.